That's it, going live just now, so you're fine to carry on.
Okay, thank you. Welcome along, everybody, to the Children Learning Committee on the 17th of November 2020. Sarah, any apologies or substitutes?
Yes, Convener, we have apologies from Councillors Macmillan Douglas, Proctor and Sturrock, with Councillors Salmond, Fotheringham and Longdeer substituting. We also have apologies from Mrs Howson and Mr Summers.
Okay, thank you. Any declarations of interest, anybody? No, okay, thank you. Previous minutes of the previous meeting, are they agreed? Yeah, thank you. Right, just before we get on, I would just like to thank, well, during this tremendously difficult period, I want to pay a tribute to all of our teachers, department heads, teaching staff, head teachers, deputy heads, social workers, and everybody that's connected with the Children and Learning Committee and schools and social work side, as I said already, especially to Catherine Lindsay, Chief Social Worker, and Kelly McIntosh, the Director of Education. And can I express my admiration from all on this committee, and I'm sure all of our councillors will agree with us, but the work that is ongoing in running these schools at the moment and looking after all of our pupils is a mammoth task, and one that without the dedication of all members of the team would be impossible. I speak directly on this from seeing daily changes that all schools are facing when having to organise logistics of any small outbreak of COVID at the schools. Pupils having to be told to isolate and teachers and support staff having to head home for 14 days or so. Replanning of classes due to the staff and pupil shortages must be a bit of a nightmare at the moment. But just 2 weeks ago, I received a call on a Sunday afternoon from Arbroath High School informing us that our daughter would have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. And later that same evening, an email was issued by the head teacher with a detailed explanation of what happened and what procedures we now have to adhere to. The home learning that my daughter has received during this period is fantastic, and a lot of the classes she can still be included on due to the technology of Microsoft Teams. I would just like to applaud you all, one and all, for all the efforts thus far, and things do not look to be getting any easier, and we will have to rely on you for a little while longer, but please believe me when I say your efforts are going unnoticed. I would like to put that in the record, please, for myself and hopefully the rest of the committee. Thank you. Okay, we have a presentation today on Montefieth High School's befriending scheme. I'll just do a quick introduction. We welcome today Kathleen Ritchie, who's the Deputy Head Teacher, and our S6 pupils, Nadia Ahmed, Eve Nimmo, Louisa Rice, Lucy Watson. We welcome them all to the Children Learning Committee this afternoon. The Young Befrienders is a well-established partnership between Montefieth Befriending, a local charity, and Montefieth High School. It has been running for around 10 years and involves young people in S6 visiting a lonely elderly person in either a care home or in their own home. The young people are keen to share information about the partnership and how this vital work in the local community is continuing. And I would like to hand it over to Kathleen Ritchie just now, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wan. As I explained earlier, because we're in a school setting and I'm sharing a room with the 4 young befrienders that I've brought along this afternoon, we will be wearing masks when we're not talking. And that's a bit of a logistical nightmare because we're sharing one laptop, so I'll have to move when I invite the young people to speak. As I said, I'm Kathleen Ritchie, Deputy Head, and I've been involved with the Young Befrienders for about 4 years now, since the previous deputy retired. And it's grown in strength thanks to the commitment of our young people, but also to the commitment of Pauline Cameron, who is part of the Montefieth Befrienders and is the school's coordinator. Before I go on to explain a bit more about the befriending scheme and how it works in our high school, particularly during the challenging times of COVID, I'd like to introduce befrienders who've come along today. However, it's 4 girls, there are boys involved as well, and each year we have between 20 and 30 S6 volunteers. So before I go on, if I can introduce Nadia, Eve, Louisa and Lucy. So I'll ask them if you can 4 in the street now. As I say their name, just So we have Eve Lowe, Nadia Ahmed, Lisa Rice, and Lucy Watson.
Afternoon, all.
If we could move on to the next slide, please. So why befriending in Monteith High School? These are main overarching themes or priorities in the high school. And since Mrs. McAnally, our current head teacher, arrived, she's focused on these. So attainment is clearly so important for all our young people. But by attainment, we mean achievement as well. Not all young people get excellence in their examination results, but we strive to get the best out of every young person. And volunteering is such a rich and rewarding experience for. We also care deeply about the health of all our young people, but where befriending scheme fits in best is our sense of community. And over the years, we've really tried our best to develop positive links with our local community. And what a better way to do that than with our young befriending scheme. If I could move on to the next slide. So befriending is a charity. If you Google it, you get some quite heart-wrenching information. It's a charity that's been running in the Monteith area since 2000, and the school's been involved for about the last 10 years. But befriending, the aim of the befrienders is to tackle loneliness and social isolation amongst all age groups. But in the Monteith area, it tends to be people who are either living at home, whose relatives and friends are either in England, far away, and some of them don't see anybody apart from their befriender in the space of a week. The commitment from our befrienders, what we ask for is that they undergo some training, they need a PVG, and then they commit to visiting 1 hour per week, which is quite difficult given a busy school timetable as well. However, our young people are always very committed. Are quite extreme when you read about it, and I'll explain a bit more on the next slide. So this year, due to COVID, the process started pre-lockdown when Pauline Cameron, who you can see in the bottom left photograph, she's the lady nearest us, nearest the screen. She came in and did an assembly, as she does each year, and explained to our 5th year pupils who to head off on study leave, which didn't happen this year, really loneliness and the effects on physical, mental and social well-being, physical health, mental health, and just the social well-being of people, the effects of loneliness. It is a bigger killer, some research says, than smoking cigarettes. And it's estimated that 1 in 4 of people in the UK suffer from social isolation or loneliness at the moment. Assembly, she asked for applications. We got almost 50 applications from our 5th years, and then she interviewed. Now, I think if I remember that the interviews did happen before lockdown, and the young people are nodding. However, we then went into lockdown, so the next part of the process had to be done remotely. So Pauline Cameron and her colleagues at Monteith Befriending arranged Zoom meetings like this, and met with the befrienders to undergo the training. She asked them to email documents so that they could be put through PVG. And when we came back to school in August, the photographs that you see outside the school, that's where she met them in small groups, in pairs, to find out their interests. Because what Pauline, I'll just wait a few minutes till the bell stops. What Pauline is matching up our young people with a friend. We don't call them the elderly people because some of them may not be much older than I am, but we call them their friend, and she matches them up with people with very similar interests. I'm going to wait a few minutes, but if you could move on to the next slide, because we have pupils now, and I'll have to ask Nadia. First of all, Nadia and Eve meet called Margot Clearly, there are challenges due to COVID and the pandemic and the restrictions on meeting in homes. But I'm going to pass over to Nadia, first of all, who will talk about her experience this year.
So we've been paired is 97 and she used to be a befriender herself, so she knows all about the programme and everything, and we've really enjoyed it so far, even though it's not been the same as a usual befrienders year. And there's obviously been more challenges because of COVID, so we haven't actually been able to go into her house any time apart from the first time that we visited, which is a shame, but we have been able to write to her and things like that, and Eve will explain more about that. We've gained really valuable volunteering experience. That's the community at the same time, so it's sort of beneficial for both the volunteer and the community, which is obviously something we want to get involved with. We had the chance to visit in September and we got to know Margot a bit, got to meet her, learn a bit about her life, but unfortunately we couldn't visit again, but we did decide to take cakes down to her just to make sure she was okay. And we do know that she is quite isolated sometimes, so we just wanted to make sure she was all right, and she seemed, so that was good. Unfortunately though, Margot and a lot of other older people have been feeling isolation for a lot of years before this pandemic came about. So we're more than happy just to provide any kind of company or something to look forward to for any of the elderly people in our community. And obviously it benefits us and the community as well. So we're more than happy to get involved.
Right, thank you. If we could move on to the next slide, and Eve will continue to talk about her experience with Margot.
Hi. So I always Margot when I go with Nadia. It brings a lot of joy to both of us, and we've learned like a valuable lesson. And we've learned a lot about Margot herself. But even though that COVID has restricted Nadia, still managed to learn about her life and what she likes to do for. And like Nadia said, we've only been in her house once. It was difficult to connect with Margot, but after a few phone calls, it was easier, and we were able to open up more and talk. Lonely, so we like to phone her and like to reassure that hopefully this will all be over soon and she'll be able to get back to what she used to do. And when we phone her, like she really likes to talk, so she would often talk about what she's been doing in the past week or how she's feeling, and she's really keen to listen. We also thought that during the October holidays that she would need some cheering up after being alone. Cakes, and she said that she really enjoyed them and she really enjoyed the company and the surprise. And something else is that we know Margot is partially blind, so we both decided that we'd write her a letter, and she really liked that because we both thought that someone of her generation would appreciate a letter more than a phone call. So we thought when doing that she would like it, and she really did. And something else is that three of us really look forward to phoning each other every week, and it's all something that we enjoy and get on with. Yeah.
Right, thank you. If we then go on to the next slide, and we have there's a picture on the slide of something called a comp. I don't know anything about the comp, but Louisa and Lucy, who visit Richard, will talk more about it. I pass over to Louisa Rice.
So Lucy and I visit a man called Richard, and whilst we haven't been able to visit him with kind of conventional methods, we have found a new technology that we could use, which is called the comp, which I'll describe in the next slide. So the comp's a one-button computer that's installed friend's house, which he has it up on his dining table, and what it allows you to do is through an app you can send through photos that you take, things like that, and it will kind of revolve on his computer throughout the day, so you can see photos that you send in and what you're doing, and it kind of just helps you keep in contact with them, keep them up to date. And it also has a video. It's video enabled, and it means that we can really have kind of face-to-face, well, we can have as close to face with him, we can hear him, we can see him, we can talk to him rather than it just being on a phone call. So it gives you an opportunity to keep up to date with photos, you can add captions to them, but it also lets you have that video chat with him as well. And Lucy, in the next slide, I'll explain how we've used the comp to help keep in contact with Richard. Hi. Me, both and Louisa think the comp has been a great thing for Richard and both of us to keep in touch with him during COVID, because obviously it's very difficult times right now. But after new restrictions, we arranged a time with him on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. for us to call him every single week. And just, it allows him to learn more about us and us to share what's happened with our lives as well as his. And it's been really good to keep in contact with him during these hard times when we've not been able to visit him at his house. In between the calls, we can upload photos of what we've been doing for our lives, and as well as some of his family are on the comp as well, so we can learn a bit more about him. And it's just been great to keep up to date with what we've been doing in our lives and show him what we've been up to. So overall, I think the comp's been a great way to safely chat with Richard, because we've not been able to face-to-face go to his house with him. But yeah, I think it's been a really safe way to through these times. Some people might ask what the impact of befriending is, and I just wanted to put up a few bullet points on this slide, which really, people contact me. Richard emailed Pauline Cameron to say he's overcome that the girls have continued to keep in touch through the comp and gets so excited when he sees the photographs. Told Pauline she just loved the letter from Nadia and Eve. She was telling everybody about it. She was showing it to all other friends. I got a phone call from the niece of one of our elderly people and said she'd happened to be at the house when, this is before the second restrictions were imposed, and two pupils, Leon and Lucy, were visiting, and she said she would have been proud to call them her own children. Years ago, still keep in touch with their friends, and Finlay, for example, phoned Sheila from time to time. One pupil took her cat into a care home to visit her friend Nora, and I saw a video of that, and Nora was overcome because she loved cats, but obviously wasn't allowed to have her own in the care home. And Jenna from last year, she unfortunately lost a friend who passed away, you know, quite early on in her befriending experience. Matched up with somebody else, and she still phones to check on her. But I'll talk about the last slide. Before I do, if you look at the article, and we can go back, could you go back to the previous slide just for a minute? Sorry. Our age gap friendship, that was an article that was in the Women and Home magazine. It was published on the 12th of May 2020, but it's an article that if we have time, Councillor Wan, I'd like to read out with, because it really sums up what the Befrienders means to us, but what it means to our local community. If we go on to the last slide, please. And this is what Befrienders should look like when our young people can meet up with their friends. We're invited to fish and chip lunches, we're invited to afternoon teas, we invite the elderly into the school, we give them a Christmas afternoon tea and tea dance. We can't do that this year, but we're actively fundraising and donate a hamper to each of our elderly friends in the community. But if you give me the okay for time, if we can read out just a short piece of the article from Women and Home, I'd like to share it with you to finish off. Yeah, Kathleen, please carry on. Yep. Right, so I will do the introduction. Because this article is about Margot and about her two friends 2 years ago, Amy and Erin, I've
and Eve, who visit Margot this year, to play the roles of Amy and Erin. So the article starts by saying, what started as a school project resulted in a lifelong friendship. Amy Rutherford and Erin Torrey, both 18, are friends with Margot Geddes, 96. As you've heard, she's now 97. They all live in Moneyfeast, Dundee. Amy is training to become a nurse, and Erin is studying art and design. Margot is an RAF and an avid tap dancer. So I'll pass over to Nadia, who will let you know what Amy said for the article.
When our school announced that pupils could sign up for a befriender scheme, pairing pupils with people who were lonely or housebound, I signed up. I thought it would help me become a better nurse by improving my skills while benefiting someone else too. The school told us we could pair up with a friend, so Erin and I put each other's names down. I was unsure what to expect before meeting Margot in June 2018, as I'd never done before. We started visiting every week, and Margot was so kind to us. We grew fond of her and visited during school holidays too. When we left school, we didn't want to lose our friendship with Margot, so we still visit to this day. We like finding out about the life she's led, and she tells us about the latest news about the royals. She's witty and makes us laugh. I admire how much she's done to her life and independent she is. She used to be RAF until she at 96, she really has so much work. For her generation. We'll start as a project resulted in a lifelong friendship.
Have we lost them? It looks as though they went off screen.
Convener, I think we may have lost them. Can I ask maybe John or Claire just to confirm that, please?
We did lose you, but...
Oh, they're back.
They're back.
Right, I'll pass over to Eve, who will be Erin.
I signed up to the befriender scheme hoping to speak to people I wouldn't ordinarily have the opportunity to. I lacked confidence, but I've changed so much in the years since meeting Margot. When we arrive, Margot makes us a toast non-stop until the moment we leave. One thing we have in common is how much we love chatting. I learned about World War II in history class, but it was different hearing Margot's experience. It's one thing learning from booklets, but talking to someone who actually lived through a war is fascinating. I love how open-minded and bubbly Margot is. She's easy to chat to, and I value our friendship so much. Plus, she makes a mean toasty.
And finally, I'll read what Margot said for the article. She said, they will always be my friends. When my eyesight started to fail, I had to stop driving. Then, aged 80, I had to hang up my tap dancing shoes as I was starting to lose my balance. I had to find something to keep me occupied, and the Befriender scheme is a lifeline. It's lovely to feel connected to other people in the community, and I think it does younger people good too. Amy and Erin are special to me. I love seeing them find their confidence and can see a change in them both since we met. It's touching that they still make time for me. So that's our presentation finished. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure the girls would take questions.
No, that would be brilliant. I was just about to ask if that would be okay with you. I would just like to say thank you to all of you there for making that presentation to us today. Unfortunately, we kind of missed out a little bit of what Nadia was saying because it went, well, certainly at my end, it went all kind of Dalek sounding. I think that was the same for everybody else. But can I open up the floor to questions, please? Councillor Laurie.
Thanks, convener, and thank you so much for coming to speak to us today. I particularly enjoyed hearing about Margot's wonderful toast days. But seriously, Moneypeak Befrienders are a wonderful, hardworking charity, and I'm sure that your help has brought a really intergenerational boost to their efforts to tackling loneliness in our communities. I'm sure you've had a huge positive impact on the friends that you're supporting, but I'm curious, what have been the benefits for you? You kind of mentioned it's boosted your confidence. How much personal development have you seen in yourselves?
Sorry, that your question, Councillor Laurie, cut out. I didn't hear the final part of your question.
I'll repeat it. My question is, I'm sure that you've helped your friends that you're supporting a lot, but what's this done for you and your own confidence and your own personal development? What have been the benefits for the young people involved in this?
Right, I'll pass over to the young people. So what's been the benefits to you and your confidence? I think they're quite early on in their experience because they just started meeting their friends in September. But do any of you want to say? Louisa will come and answer your question, Councillor Laurie. Delighted to see you as a former pupil of Moneypeak High.
It's always good to see you too.
Hi, so I actually really want to do medicine when I'm older, and that was one of the reasons why I started this, because I wanted to kind of get a bit of an experience of that kind of, you know, the kind of caring, being like just really giving back. And I definitely think I learned a lot about just communicating with him. You know, you learn more about each other. You learn that you're actually not that different at all. There's a lot of similarities, and there's countless things that I've learned about him. I've learned to be a lot more open as well, kind of not being as afraid to talk to different people. It's definitely, I think, helped me in that way as well.
Okay, Councillor Laurie, you happy with that? Yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I wasn't doing anything remotely as valuable as that at that age, so I tip my hat to them. Much respect.
Thank you. Councillor Whiteside, you have your hand up.
Thanks, convener, and thanks Nadia, Eve, Louise and Lucy for coming along. And always nice to see Mrs. Ritchie, who was actually one of my own daughter's guidance teachers when she was at Moneyfield. I think the project is fantastic, particularly the cross-generational aspect of it. And I'm just wondering if any of the volunteers have got plans to continue with similar work once they leave school.
Have any of you got plans to continue volunteering? I think Nadia and Eve are keen. I think they just saw the article from Women in Home at lunchtime today, so there was very little prep for that, but I read it myself again last night and here. But I think having read that, they're keen to continue to visit Margot. As you probably heard, she's such a bubble full of life herself, that, and hearing what Amy and Erin have done 2 years later, they're still visiting. I think they want to continue that friendship. Anybody else want to add anything? I think they probably would, but clearly depending on what their university or college or employment applications, where it leads them, it may be more difficult if they're not in the local area, but hopefully they will continue to volunteer in some respect.
Yeah, thanks again.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thanks, convener. It really is just to give my thanks for today's presentation, and to each of you for all your kind of hard work and efforts and the care and compassion that you're showing and spreading throughout your community. I guess I would just want to maybe ask, what would be your kind of key message to other young people in Angus and other areas that you might want to kind of encourage to take up similar opportunities, and what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind for other pupils that you may want to follow in your footsteps?
I think Nadia will come and speak to that.
Thank you.
So we knew a couple of the befrienders from the year before, so we were obviously a bit more informed about the project this year, and we knew a couple of them quite well, so they all said they really enjoyed it, and we just wanted to give it a go, and hopefully we can encourage other people, because it's something that we actually really enjoy. It doesn't really feel like volunteering work, it just feels like she's our friend and we want to go and visit her and give her some company. We'll get involved.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for the presentation. It was really good. I wanted to ask about these devices, the comps. Does the charity get them themselves for the people that are using them, or do they need to purchase them themselves? I'd never actually heard of the device before myself, and I had a quick Google during the presentation, and I came upon the site, and they seem to be quite expensive, so it might not make it accessible to all. I just wanted to find out a bit more about that. Thanks.
Kathleen, you're still on mute.
I did lose connection there, so I didn't hear if there was another question. I did lose connection, but we're back now.
You want me to do it again, Derek?
Yeah, please, Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, I was just thanking you for the presentation, and I was asking about the device, the comp. I'd never actually heard of it myself, and I had a Google during the presentation. I noted, well, the website I looked at, they were nearly £600 each, and I just wondered if the charity, they provided them or the individuals needed to get them themselves.
Pauline Cameron from Money Faith Befriending contacted me during lockdown and said that they'd managed to get funding, the Money Faith Befriending scheme, and this is a trial. So Richard had agreed to try. Sounds as if it's hugely successful. So I would hope, so no, the school didn't buy it, Richard didn't buy it, it was Money Faith Befrienders who managed to acquire funding for it. They met, Pauline and Gail from Money Faith Befriending met with me last week, and I'm meeting again later this week. They're again trying to raise money for something that's called a in fact, it's a bike, which is a bit like a rickshaw, a trishaw. I was trying to remember and the cost for that, if you think the comp was expensive, a trishaw is something in the region of £8,000. But again, they're trying to secure funding for one, and they want the school to manage the running of this. But basically, you know, what it would involve is 2 of our volunteers. It's so 3 people can be on it at once if the restrictions are lifted. And what they have visions of are our young befrienders taking their friend along the coastal path out in the to get out and about. So that is a project for the future, which sounds really exciting. I don't think it'll be this current group of volunteers that will do that, maybe next year or the year after.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Braze, I noticed you had your hand up. Is that an error? Or?
Well, I did take it down again, but yes, thank you very much, convener, for allowing this presentation today, and thanks for everyone who participated. What a wonderful thing to be doing with your time, and especially just now in this pandemic. Absolutely wonderful. I do have a question. It's going to sound very, very silly. I was really thrilled to hear about the story about the cat. And I did wonder if you have a dog available, because I could do with a bit of befriending from a dog at the moment. That's all. Thank you.
We actually do have a dog. I don't know, the Director of Education might be able to put me right here, but we have a school dog. We've had a school dog since August, when Shelby, who, if you look at our school Twitter page, you will see her. And the reason that we decided to have a school dog, again, we know the benefits of pet therapy. We had therapeutes in a few years ago when unfortunately we had a bereavement in the school, and so bite the bullet. So Shelby belongs to one of our staff members, but she comes into school every day. She stays with our business manager, she visits classes, she visits the ASN department, and she brings a joy to our school community. So, Councillor, if you want to borrow a dog, you may want to come and visit Moneyfeith High School and meet Shelby.
Do you accept mature pupils at Moneyfeith High School?
I'll pass you over to Hector, I think, for that.
We seem to have one, thanks Councillor Braze, we seem to have one hand left up. Councillor Fotheringham.
Thank you, convener. Yes, like Councillor Laurie, I'm a former pupil, but long before Mrs. Ritchie's time on the staff. And what I would say to Councillor Braze, Kenny, you've got a Twitter account. If you go to @MHS Shelby, you'll be able to follow the school dog, which I do, and I certainly like her antics and her daily updates on her Twitter feed. But I would just like to thank, I know firsthand actually about the Moneyfeith befriending scheme. My late mother was a befriender to several service users when it started off, before she moved south to be with my sister, and she enjoyed every minute of it and made some lovely friends. And I know the good community work that Moneyfeith High does, not only with this, but I think this is probably your flagship one, but all the good community work that you do, your fundraising, your tidying up around the community and stuff like that. So thank you very much indeed for your presentation today. And if any of your volunteers are around on the 4th of December, I've actually been in touch, Lindsay Legrice and Gail's been in touch with me, and I'm doing something virtually musically for the volunteers on the afternoon of Friday the 4th of December. So if you're around then, you'll hear all the wrong notes. Thank you, convener.
Thank you.
That's 2 plugs you made there, Councillor Fotheringham. Well done.
We're live, we may as well make use of it.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else before we close that down? No. Oh, Councillor Brown, I think. Yeah.
Yes, convener. Is this something that we as a council are giving thought to rolling out to all the schools? It's a fantastic idea, and I'm certain there are pupils in every one of our high schools who would like to be doing the same as these 4 girls who spoke today. I just feel that it's a fantastic opportunity, but I also realise that without a leader, there's not a park.
Oh, Councillor Brown, good question. I think that would probably be up to the schools individually, but is Kelly McIntosh there? Can you maybe shed any light if any other schools are looking at this or are doing it?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for your question, Councillor Brown. I think the Moneyfeith situation is quite unique in that it's been running for over 10 years. Our other schools are very interested. They see what Moneyfeith are doing here. Hopefully they'll watch this back because they're busy in their lessons just now. But Moneyfeith certainly do spread the word about how successful this has been. And whilst all of our other secondary schools are involved to some extent in their communities, it perhaps in terms of befriending isn't quite as successful as this yet. But this is something that we are very keen to promote further in conjunction with our colleagues in community learning and development.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. Is that okay, Mr. Councillor Brown? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think that's all the hands now finished on the side of the screen there. So just from me and from the rest of the committee, thank you very much, Kathleen, and thanks to the 4 pupils for coming along and presenting to us today. As everybody has said, it's a fantastic effort and a fantastic cause. So thank you. Thanks once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to leave the meeting now. But thanks for giving us this chance to talk about our befriending.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. We'll just wait a couple of seconds till they close down and we'll carry on. Okay, that was the presentation. So agenda item number 5, which are information reports for the period 8th of September to 3rd of November 2020. The first information schedule is equal protection from assault. We'll just take a couple of questions. There are information reports, so if there are any real big questions, if we could direct them straight to the officers in connection with them, but I'm quite happy to take a couple of questions just now. Councillor Speed. You're on mute, Lewis.
That's good.
I heard that comment.
That's good.
Councillor Brown. Is that me now? Am I back? Am I on?
You're on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I welcome this information report and indeed the Children Equal Protection from Assault Scotland Act 2019 and its implementation within Angus, which began on the 7th of November. I'm fully aware that this is an act that has been met with mixed emotion and opinion, and all too often I hear and see many comments in response to physical punishment with phrases such as, "It never done me any harm," or "It never done mine any harm." These are attitudes and assumptions that I believe we cannot ignore, as historically physical punishment has been an acceptable parenting method, but equally we must be prepared to challenge, as the reality and fact is that children who are subject to physical punishment experience not only the physical scars, but often lifelong physical, emotional and psychological scars and damage that go on to impact every aspect of their childhood and beyond. Parent and caring, although can be rewarding, is one of the most challenging roles that many of us will ever experience in our lifetime, and it doesn't come with a perfect set of instructions, and many factors out with our control can often make it more difficult and demanding. So my question is what support and advice can parent carers and families access within Angus, and how can we break the stigma and reduce any fears that it's okay to seek help and support when bringing up children, as often there is an assumption that, you know, we should be able to do it alone, when actually, in actual fact, it can be a very difficult journey.
Thank you, Councillor Speed. Is Alan Hope here today, or is somebody else able to? Do we have anybody there? Yeah, oh, sorry, Catherine. Yeah, thank you.
Happy to take that. Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Speed. And I suppose it's fair to say that there's a range of services available locally. Our early years colleagues have developed a suite of interventions, informal and formal, for parents of younger children. Our social work services obviously also complement that with individual family level support where that's needed, although that's only needed for a very small minority of families. But the significant investment here has been at a national level, and I think it's important that we recognise that. The Scottish Government has invested significantly in parent line support and a range of online materials to support families in terms of that very, very early intervention and development of different methods and mechanisms of supporting children to do what we would like to in the way that we would like them to do it. And I fully accept your interventions there in terms of parenting as being a very complex endeavour. I also experienced that myself. So this is something that we are taking a proportionate approach to locally. There's clearly been a shift, not in the law itself. Assaulting children was always something that would potentially give rise to conviction. What has changed is that there is no longer a defence of reasonable chastisement, which is what parents would have fallen back on in terms of previous experiences. So the threshold has changed. But we're taking a very complementary approach with our colleagues in Police Scotland and other agencies to make sure that what we do is intervene to offer support to families wherever that is possible. But of course, decisions about whether or not to proceed with any kind of criminal interventions would be in the hands of the Procurator Fiscal. So I don't know whether or not Victoria Smith might want to say a little about some of the early intervention opportunities that there are in our early years service.
Yep, Victoria.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that, Catherine, because there is a vast range of opportunities within the early years offer for parents and families. We very much build upon the 5 to Thrive offer for our youngest children, helping parents with connection and attachment and how to play and build bonds with their children, because as we know, absolutely everything is built upon relationships. Further to that, we then add into the mix our Incredible Years programme, which is has been a real success, offered all across Angus, and really targets families and supporting families with children aged between 3 and 6 years old. And the real strengths of that programme have shown not only in developing people's understanding of child development and how to deal with problems in an age-appropriate way for young children, but also creates a support network for the families themselves. So they begin to make connections with each other and can then be an enduring support for each other that goes on through time. So really these things complement all the universal supports that are been able to put in place through our school-based provisions as well, from personal programmes that our schools are taking forward with families on a school-by-school basis too. So there's a vast range of supports that are there, and the main thing is for us to get the word out so that parents know that they are there, and it's we really want them to take up that offer.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Speed, you happy with that? Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for that. I think, as you say, there are supports there, and I guess it's about trying to kind of break that kind of stigma and fear that, you know, as parents, carers, we don't have to go alone, and it should be okay to say, actually, this is really difficult. I'm really struggling to look after my wee one today, or, you know, I'm trying all these different methods and approaches to try and, you know, get them to, whether it be eat their tea or, you know, just when kids are not maybe just behaving the way in which we'd want if you're at the shops or whatever. So I think it is important that parents and carers can feel that they can seek help. And just for clarity, is that kind of like a self-referral? Can parents and carers through school or through kind of education settings, or where will they find out about this information? Is it predominantly within the school?
There, Councillor Speed, there are notifications that come across on our social media sites. We regularly do that and encourage schools to retweet and repost with regards Facebook notifications. Parents can self-refer. It doesn't rely on a referral having to come from a professional in some description. Anyone who feels that this would be of benefit should definitely consider doing that. And of course, all our schools would be able to point any parent in the right direction in order to be able to help them to access being able to do that. So we would encourage that.
And if we got posters and leaflets and things up in places that obviously not everyone's got access to online, so we got kind of information in our communities as well, because I'm just aware of how challenging these last few months have been, and will continue to be. There's even more demands being placed. So will families manage to see that information out in the community?
Certainly, it's regularly communicated, and also the other thing that we have really very much taken forward is how these can be delivered in a COVID safe way, and really to be able to get those supports to families without any form of delay. So yes, they should certainly be able to access all of that.
Thank you. Thanks, convener.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Victoria. There's no other hands up for that one, so we'll move on to schedule information report 2, which is the Montefieth Learning Estate. As we all know, or will have read, the Scottish Government announcement's been delayed till December. But we have been working hard on the Montefieth Learning Estate programme. It's something that we're all keen to look at and take forward. However, we are dependent upon SFT, Scottish Futures Trust, grant and approval. But I'll take a couple of questions on that if you want. Anybody? Councillor Laurie? Yeah.
Yep, thanks, convener. A comment and a question. This was a very encouraging paper to read. Montefieth does have great need for a new high school, and the current building is at capacity while the town continues to grow. The building's rated B for condition and C for suitability, and there's an extensive programme of outstanding maintenance. It's my belief that a new purpose-built school is needed in Montefieth to address these challenges, and it's my hope that we can build something that's eco-friendly, accessible, provides an optimal learning space while also serving the needs of the wider community. Moving forward, local engagement will be vital, and I urge all residents of Moneyfeith and Sidlaw to make their voices heard when this goes to consultation. Don't miss your opportunity to have your say. My question is, could we have a brief outline of the consultation period? When will it open? How long will it be open for? And how will we make sure that it gets as much local engagement as possible?
Yeah, if I could bring in Mark Armstrong in that, is that okay, Mark?
Sorry, Convener, I'll have to find the relevant files. I think you'll find Beth Reader probably has that to hand, but I'll look in the meantime.
Okay, if does Beth want to come in? Yeah.
I'm happy to take that. So in terms of the proposed project here, a formal statutory consultation isn't required under the terms of the Act, but we will be doing community engagement and consultation. We don't have the detail of a timeline for that yet, but the plan, as I've said in the update report, is that we're going to be bringing a full report to committee in December, which I would be hoping to map out some of that with some firmer details coming after the New Year period, if that's okay. So those details will follow.
Brilliant. I'll look out for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. I have Councillor Whiteside's hand up. Yeah.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, it's really welcome to see this proposal coming forward. It's well, it's overdue for replacement of the school in Moneyfeith. So really pleased to see it. It would be good to get some more information about the specific plans. And I noticed there was mention of a potential satellite Moneyfeith High School for the west of the catchment. So I'd be really interested to hear the thinking around that. And just before I go, it was also disappointing that one of the ward members, Sheila Hans, wasn't able to read the attachment. Yet again, we're in a position where the documents that were given are not accessible to everybody, which is a poor show.
Councillor Whiteside, I'd just like to raise the fact on the things for Councillor Hans that have they notified officers previous to this meeting, or is this something you're just bringing up just now?
I don't know, but she has to do it regularly, meeting after meeting after meeting, and when there's something important to the ward like this, it's particularly disappointing.
Does she have the papers now? Because they've obviously been out a week. Do we know? It's just a general question that I can raise on her behalf as well. So
I just wanted to flag it up because.
So she may already have them. Yeah, we don't know. Okay, thank you. Mark or Beth, do you want to come in on that?
Just say an accessible version was provided on Thursday via committee services. If that has not been received, please let me know and we'll make sure that gets to Councillor Hans.
Thank you.
Convener, I can confirm that went to Councillor Hans.
Okay, so right, okay, so Councillor Hand does have a readable version for herself then. Thank you. Do you want your points raised on the satellite thing? Is that something Beth or Mark can add to?
If I could respond briefly, thank you, Convener, and thank you, Councillor Whiteside, for the question. Really, in the context of the wider school estate and certainly our plans for our senior phase and how we can encourage particularly our older pupils to progress their independent learning skills, we are looking at the possibility of having some kind of offer in the area in and around Liff that would enable our senior phase pupils to access digital learning through local resources as opposed to having to travel to the school. But these are kind of development ideas that actually that we're in discussion with the Deputy First Minister with in terms of how we'd like to take our learning offer forward in Angus.
Thanks. It'd be really good to see something like that going forward.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Councillor Whiteside. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. And yeah, thanks. It was a good report. I have a couple of questions. The sort of ballpark cost at 47 to 50 million, and your paper quotes the cost of Forfar at 38.7 or something like that. Can we get an explanation why it is so much more expensive than the Forfar school? That's the first question. And the second question is, I assume that the cost includes the cost of demolishing the current Moneyfeith High School. Can we get an estimate as to what the cost of demolition is as well?
Mark Armstrong, Beth.
Yeah, I'll start.
It's probably early days, but carry on.
Yeah, I think the obvious kind of initial responses in terms of the time delay between the two projects and just general kind of cost inflation over that period, we have, in the context of the pandemic, had to revise some of our projections. And similarly, the kind of standards that are required now from the Scottish Government, particularly around energy efficiency and aspects of kind of green development, have changed. So there are all those elements in there, but what we can do is we can get our property services to provide a more detailed response, because the revisions and the costs that have been done have been very calculated to the best of their ability at this point. And they would be able to give a more detailed response about any differential between the Forfar project and the Moneyfeith project. But I don't know if Beth has anything she would want to add to that.
Nothing detailed beyond there's obviously an inflationary impact and a lot of the cost metrics have changed. So I think we would bring that information back as part of a full report.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, more detail would be very welcome. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, as we said, this is early days on it. Just now it's projected cost, but yes, certainly when there's more information, we will get that out to the committee and to the fuller council. Thank you. Okay, no more hands, and we can move on to agenda item 6, which is the annual education report. Report author is Kelly McIntosh. There are 4 recommendations. I would start off with any questions. No hands up. Okay, no takers. Right, any comments on the report? We have Councillor Devine.
Thanks, convener. I think this is a superb report. I've really enjoyed it. I always do enjoy reading to see what's going on in all the schools. There's a few highlights. I don't want to go on too long about it, but I'm a great believer in Scandinavian model of education, whereby children don't take on formal education until 6 or 7 years old. And so I'm really pleased to see that there's training going on for P1 staff in outdoor learning, playful pedagogy, and even fire pit training, which I did find is really fascinating. But I mean, I know just how important it is for children to learn vocabulary and understand the concept of numbers and building up fine gross motor skills and confidence, all pre-skills for reading and numeracy as well. I wanted to thank all the staff involved in getting the 1140 hours on the go, because lots of other people haven't managed to do that, and it must have been a total juggling act for you. So I would imagine Victoria was at the back of that. So thank you very much. It's been really difficult without the Forfar and Carnoustie centres being opened, but it'll be wonderful when they do. One wee thing, and I don't know if people picked it up, but there's this thing about teachers, they have complained for years, and I was one, rightly so, about the amount of paperwork required. So it's good to see that something is happening and trying to reduce the bureaucracy and allowing them to have more time to plan and actually teach. Family learning, I think, is a great thing. It gives children, parents, a greater understanding of what the children are doing, and through that it can maybe increase their aspirations for the children and the children's aspirations for themselves. So I really don't want to go on too long, but I do think that during lockdown it's been particularly hard for young people. So I want to thank any of the youth workers around who have been keeping in touch with them through various platforms. And I know that in some instances in Forfar, there's been council youth workers going out with pit stop youth workers of an evening and, just engaging with the young people who are around. So that's all got to be advantageous. And hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to get some of the youth centres opened again, which will help them tremendously. Thank you, convener.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Devine. I think that's echoed from the whole committee, the thanks. So, yeah, well done. Councillor Speed, thank you.
Thanks, convener. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would just really like to kind of draw attention to 1.6 on education in unprecedented times. And I would just like to take this opportunity to shine a light on all our children and young people and parents and carers who have been faced with probably the most challenging set of circumstances that none of us could have predicted or prepared for, and hopefully something that none of us will have to go through again. I think, you know, I can only think back to school holiday times, and I know that those times can be challenging enough for families and for children. So to have gone through all those months during lockdown and right the way through to now, to the schools returning when they did, but also returning to school life not as we would know it, I think we just need to give our utmost respect and thanks to everyone who has, as like I say, we can't really comprehend. I know the school holidays often left me floored, so I certainly would have been probably reaching out and screaming for help, because, you know, as we've mentioned in the previous paper, bringing up children can be challenging enough without additional pressures and without additional restrictions, and being confined to the home alone is difficult enough. So I just really wanted to give that shout out to all those young people and families. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Speed. Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, Convener, and I echo everything that's been said already. Looking to the plan part of the report, I really welcome the emphasis on building a culture of care and the use of educational psychologists and increased access to high quality counselling. It's such an important aspect of our education, particularly at the moment. Also, the focus on reading. I mean, quite apart from just instilling a joy of reading, which is wonderful, the benefits that come from that as far as the attainment gap and also even the mental well-being of our pupils. I think it's excellent to focus on that. So just again, congratulations on the report to everybody. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Could I ask everybody to take their hands down that have already spoken? I notice the first three still up there, and I'll bring Councillor Bell in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, likewise, Kelly, that was a great report. I wanted to pick out the comment about the Forest School and how you determine the outcomes, the goals for that, and how you quantify it. I would really like some detail on how effective you feel that is, and I really like the sound of increasing accessibility to that, but it was about the specific outcomes and gauging success.
Kelly, would we manage to get something there? You want to come in?
Yeah, if I can ask Audrey Osborne to take that question. Okay.
Audrey, for some reason you're not muted. It's not shown muted, but you're not sounded. Still the same. Oh. No. We'll manage to get something emailed across to Councillor Bell and the rest of the committee on that. Would that be okay? Yeah, thank you. Technical problems.
Thank you.
Okay, that seems to be, oh no, sorry, Councillor Braze with a late hand there. Yes, Kenny.
Yes, PEF funding. It seems, well, we know there's a huge gap, anything from £2,000 to £170,000 of PEF funding. And that is an enormous difference. And most of it, of course, is explained by the fact that we have huge variations in the levels of poverty geographically throughout our county. And as we all know, poverty is the biggest hindrance to attainment, and that's something we're really going to have to address. We are trying, but that's going to be the focus if we want to raise attainment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braze. I know there are a few initiatives on to do with attainment and child poverty, and it's something that this administration and the whole council, I'm sure yourselves included, are all well behind and supportive of. So yeah, we will see if we can get more information, just maybe a quick email out to all members of the committee, just reminding them of what plans we've got and what we're doing. Okay. Thank you. Right, we have 4 recommendations on that one. I'm not going to read them all out. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 7, children's rights in Angus. This has been work that's been put together by the Angus Integrated Children's Services Group, which myself, Councillor Devine, Councillor Speed and many other officers are on. So it's a report by Mark Armstrong, the Deputy Chief Executive. There are 3 recommendations on this report. Before we go through them and agree, can I ask if there are any questions? Councillor Speed. You're on mute, Lois.
Is that better? Am I off?
Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you, convener. Yeah, I'd fully support children's rights in Angus, as every child in Angus deserves to be treated with dignity and fairness and should be able to grow up in a safe and secure environment with equal access to good quality housing, education and healthcare, as well as equal opportunities in their local community and beyond. These are things that no child should have to grow up thinking or worrying about. However, we know that not all children grow up with the same set of circumstances, and as has been highlighted previously, our statistics show the stark reality of child poverty and disadvantage. I would advocate child's rights all day long. However, what does concern me is the increasing demand on our services and resources and the reality of being able to uphold these rights every day. So my question would be to officers is, how can we overcome these challenges and ensure that we do our best to uphold these rights for our children of Angus?
Happy to bring in Mark Armstrong. Would that be okay, Mark?
Yeah, thank you very much, convener, and thank you, Councillor Speed, for your commentary and questions. And part of it, I think, ties back to the comments that were made at the end of the last item, and the commitment that not only the council but the Community Planning Partnership has made to address child poverty. And if I could just direct Councillor Brays to the recently considered Child Poverty Action Plan. There's a lot in there, Councillor Brays, about the work that's been done. But I think, Councillor Speed, the point you make is a really important one, in the sense of the challenge that comes with upholding these rights. And I think everybody on this committee would endorse and support those. And in fact, that's what you've been asked to do. But that also comes in terms of potential additional demand that it places on council services, and also in terms of the council's ability to target its resources to really deliver and meet these rights in the full. And that will be a challenge for all of our integrated children's services partners, but it is a principle and a set of kind of rights that all partners adhere to and respond to. So I think what we have to do is when we're making our resource allocations and our decisions, be mindful of our ability to meet those requirements, but also to engage with our communities and citizens about, I guess, their contribution that they can make to this agenda, and the role that we can all play in terms of adhering and supporting children's rights, but also what that means for us all as individuals in terms of our responsibilities in that. So it's not just about how the council can uphold these rights and values, but how we as a society can do that. So I think it's really a piece of work that exists beyond the public services and the integrated children's services group, but across all members of society.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Is that okay, Councillor Speed? You happy with that? Yep.
Yeah, thank you. And I just would like to really kind of just, I guess, echo and endorse the words that Mark used there in terms of it's important that we raise this awareness within our communities, and you know, it is about how we target our resources and what areas of council business we look to focus on. So yeah, thanks for that, Mark.
Thank you. There doesn't seem to be any other hands up for questions, so we'll take it to comments. Is there any comments? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I just wanted to pick out on page 85 the little example around Webster's equality work. I've heard really positive and encouraging feedback from people in my ward who have found Webster's to be an exemplar in relation to supporting LGBTQI pupils. I've been supporting some constituents and families around some of those issues recently, and I'm just so proud and delighted that Webster's has been held up as such a good example. And I really just wanted to give that recognition in the meeting today. They've been remarkable, and it is very much appreciated by families. So thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bell. I'm sure the whole committee would like to thank Webster's for that work as well. So thank you. Right, we have no other comments on this paper. We have 3 recommendations. Can I ask, are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, on to agenda item 8, which is the temporary amended operating hours at Strathmore Centre. We have 3 recommendations on that. The report author is Catherine Lindsay. Can I start off with any questions? Councillor Speed.
It's more just a comment and support of the report.
Okay, can we go to Councillor Devine first, and then I'll come back to yourself, Councillor Speed. Councillor Devine. Oh, you the same, are you?
A comment as well, and just to welcome it.
Carry on, Councillor Speed.
Okay, thank you. Just to say I welcome this report and would like to take this opportunity to fully applaud and thank the staff of the Strathmore Centre, who I believe are our unsung heroes that provide first-class care and support to the children and families who access their service. I know firsthand that this service provides an absolute lifeline and helps those children and families through often their most difficult and traumatic years of their life, by not only providing much-needed respite, but by also offering hope and belief that many of their challenges can and will be overcome. I could talk all day of the barriers that many children growing up with disability experience, as well as describe the impact on caring and how demanding that role can be. So to add on the additional pressures and impact of the pandemic, it really is just no words can fully describe just what the challenges those families will be going through, but also how much they will be relying and benefiting from the support that's been provided. So within terms to the recommendations within this report, I just ask colleagues that we would fully support this additional funding and resource into the new year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Speed. Councillor Devine?
I have nothing to add, except that it's in forefront and I'm so proud of it. I just think the staff are wonderful. They've been commended for many years and they're incredibly flexible. They used to go out to homes to provide respite, but now they're being able to do it in-house, and I just welcome this initiative. So thanks, Catherine.
Catherine, is there anything else you would like to add to the report?
I actually have Eunice McLennan on the call, and Eunice will want to come in to respond to some of that on behalf of the service.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say thank you very much to Councillor Speed and Councillor Devine in particular for the positive words, and I'll feed that back to the staff. We are very lucky. The staff have been very flexible and are very committed to the service, and even during the period of lockdown we did support 4 of our most vulnerable children, and now it's really positive that we can open up on a more full-time basis to allow other children to access the service, and I really hope that you will support the recommendations today. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's everybody's hands down now. Councillor Speed, you've still got your hand up. Is that an error?
Oh no, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm not. Okay, as I mentioned, we have 3 recommendations on that. There are no other comments or questions. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 9, the home to school transport policy, report author Kelly McIntosh. There are 2 recommendations on this. We'll start off with any questions if there are. Councillor Speed, is that still up in error? Or
no, sorry, it's still an error.
Yeah, okay, so we'll go to Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, it was in the report at 1.1, the introduction rather, the policy statement. It says in there that there's a possibility to have 16-seater bus service with fare paying customers, depending on what the best tender is for the council. And then when we go down to Appendix 2 at the Code of Conduct, it says children are required to wear seatbelts for the duration of the journey. Now, I just wondered if there is fare paying passengers on the bus and all the seats are taken up by fare paying passengers, or some of them are, and there's not enough for children that's going to be on the bus. What happens with that?
I'm pretty sure pupils would have first shout at the bus, but is it Beth? I notice. Yeah, bring in Beth on that, please.
Yep, entitled children to travel have priority on the bus for that. So the bus drivers would manage the number of people coming on. I'm not aware of that having been an issue, but obviously if it did happen on a run, I would ask that either myself or one of my colleagues were made aware, and we can look into that. But my understanding is that children would have priority.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Braze.
Yes, thank you, convener. At 7.3 at the foot of page 118, we hear about a wee bit more of our council policy for children who live out of town in rural areas and have to, some of them have 2 miles to walk to school if they don't want to use transport at their own cost. And this has concerned me for quite a while. It just seems so unfair, and I'm thinking particularly of Little Brechin. In Little Brechin, there are school children there who live very close to 2 miles out of town, and yet they're not entitled to school transport. The road apparently is deemed safe to walk, and you know, my blood runs cold at the thought of kids walking along that road, even with their parents, on a winter's night with no pavements and no street lighting. And what makes it even more galling for a lot of the people who live there is that there was a school in the village, and it was closed down. So I can understand the frustration. But I wondered if you could give me a bit of clarity on just how the assessments as to the safety of roads are made. I note in 7.3 that you do say that police can be asked along to help in the assessment, but I just wondered if you could explain a wee bit more about that for me, please.
Beth, would you be able to come in that? But was there not something just looked at Little Brechin not long ago? I believe it was something that was raised by maybe yourself and Councillor Miles, but I'll leave Beth to answer that one.
There was, thank you, Councillor Wan. We last looked at the safety assessment for Little Brechin in December of last year, if my memory serves me correctly. In general terms, a site assessment, it's consistent wherever we do that. So we look at traffic volumes. We also look at traffic speeds. As part of that, we consider the walking routes available. So a route may be considered safe if it doesn't have a pavement, as long as there is something technical called a step-off verge. So it's a space that somebody can safely walk on that's away from the road. An important consideration is also line of sight for traffic coming to and from as well. So in the Little Brechin example, all of that was assessed. We actually carried out 2 assessments of that, looking at all of those criteria, and it was deemed to be safe in those circumstances. My memory does not serve about whether the police were involved in that assessment. I think they may have been involved in one, but not the other. But the usual practice is we would instruct that through the traffic coordination group. And then if we need to get Police Scotland involved, they will send along a representative as part of that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I would just like to extend my thanks to the people involved in all those things in school transport. They've had a huge job of work to do with all the contingency planning, etc. for COVID, and they always seem to stick in, and they're not long in getting a response to you. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Brace. Thank you, Beth. Councillor Devine, please.
Yeah, it's a very small question. Top of page 116, it's 4.3D. It mentions there that minibuses between 9 and 16 passenger seats have to have lap and diagonal seat belt. We were just wondering if bigger buses have to have these when there are children on them.
Beth, can you answer?
I will take the question. I'm going to say I actually don't know the answer. So if it's okay, can I come back to you on that? I will speak to my transport colleagues and get an answer for you after, Councillor Devine.
That would be great. Thank you. Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, convener. Just a very brief point as well. Item 5.4, I note that there's no specific limit set to the overall length of day for a pupil from leaving home to returning there. Just had a very extensive report, item 7, on the rights of the child. So I'm just wondering if any consideration was given to that, and if not, why not?
Mark or Beth or Kelly, somebody want to come in on that one?
I'm happy to come in and say that we haven't considered that in terms of this particular report. I think one of the challenges is how we would go about that particular process. It wasn't picked up as something we needed to cover. I think if we did need to have a discussion about it, we could do that outside of committee. Kelly, would you agree with that?
Yeah,
if I could maybe just add whilst, sorry, Kelly, you and in you go.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that we've brought the updated policy and the associated documents today is we hope to be able to continue to make this a live working document without having to come back to committee all the time. So that's maybe a great example in that question there about that part. We would always seek to look at ways of improving the service. And with the previous conversation about the rights of the child, one of the things that we're going to have to do in education is listen to pupil voice much more. We're already quite good at that, I think, in Angus, but it's very clear in the UNCRC. Once that is enacted in Scottish law, there will be different demands placed upon us in education, and these will be open to legal challenge. So we will be looking at all of our policies, right down to our transport policy, but right up as far as our curriculum offer to make sure that we meet the needs of that new legal requirement.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, Martin, did you want to come in or did that? Oh, that's fine. Okay, that seems to be all hands up. Are we happy to move on to the recommendations, which there are 2 of? Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10, the funded early learning child and childcare framework cost review. Again, report authors Kelly McIntosh. We have 3 recommendations on that. Before we look to agree them, can I ask if there are any questions? Councillor Whiteside, your hand's up. No, is that an error? Okay. Do we have anybody questions on this report? Doesn't look like it. Any comments? No. Okay, can we just move straight to the recommendations? There's 3 of. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, agenda item 11, school terms and holidays for 22, 23, 23, 24, 24 and 25. Again, Kelly McIntosh is the report author. 3 recommendations. Are there any questions? No questions, no comments? No comments. Are the recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. And on to the final one, agenda item 12. This is the Education Recovery and Resilience Update. Again, report author Kelly McIntosh with 2 recommendations today in this report. I'll start off with any questions. No questions again. Any comments? No comments. Are the recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Well, that concludes the committee today. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.